that Mr. Skeen's going to talk about today. Okay, does that sound good? Okay, so let's see, a couple things that we'll mention today. We moved on to the ground world of transportation. Okay, I've mentioned a couple times before that movement of items by ground in the world of logistics is absolutely essential. Okay, there's a variety of ways that you can move things around on the ground. You've got courier services that sometimes might be in a car. I think Uber and Lyft actually have package delivery companies that they have. So that's kind of an interesting twist, as opposed to people picking up human beings in Lyft and Uber cars. They're picking up deliveries. Additionally, you've got railroads. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about railroads, not a ton, but railroads are a very important part of moving things on the ground, and more so than you might think, because there's some other twists on rail transportation other than just moving boxcars and things like that. But aside from those two things, you've got the truck. Okay, and when I say the truck, trucks come in very different shapes and sizes. You've got, I guess you could have a pickup truck. You've got a van. Okay, it's both smaller options on moving things on the ground, but generally the thing that you think most about in terms of trucks, you think of these big, massive trucks that you see out on the road. They're pulling behind them a big old trailer, and you got a truck driver sitting in a rig way high up, and he's looking down on you. No matter what kind of vehicle you might be in, you're always going to be lower than one of those rig truck drivers. Okay, and it is those types of trucks that make up the vast majority of ground movement of items in the world. Okay. I mean, in the United States, I mean, one of the things that you sometimes see on the back of trucks are a couple of companies that have gotten into marketing campaigns, and they talk about how important trucks are to the United States because, I mean, ourselves as sometimes passengers in trucks, ourselves as drivers in cars that are around trucks, sometimes we don't like trucks very much. They're kind of slow. If you're stuck behind them on a hill, they're really slow. Sometimes trucks get in the way and you don't like to necessarily be around them. But trucks, love them or hate them, are a very big part of our economy and definitely a part of the world of logistics. On the back of some trucks that you see, they have like this little tag on them, and it has a picture of a truck, and right next to it are the words trucks, period. We bring good stuff. Okay, that's some marketing genius thought that one up, and several trucking companies have, I guess, paid them money for usage of that exciting logo, and that is to make us passengers and us car drivers feel better about being around trucks. So every time that someone's complaining about trucks on the interstate, I'm sure you've all heard things like that. They really clog up traffic. I mean, I drive the other direction as I see all sorts of people trying to get to Cincinnati, and the vast majority, or not the vast majority, but a whole lot of trucks are on the road at the same time that all these people are trying to get to work. Probably don't like them very much. But again, as I said, trucks, they bring good stuff. They move. They are the backbone of logistics here in the United States. Now, obviously, the air package movement or air freight movement of stuff is very important, but trucks move the overwhelming majority of freight here in the United States. Okay. So we can't do anything but talk about them. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Okay, there's different types of trucks. Obviously, I mentioned a couple of them, and there are two varying types of truck transportations, big truck transportation, that we're actually going to be talking about today. And that big type of truck transportation is going to be something that I will tell you is, oops, I just lost my place. It is something that the most recent video that I gave you to watch and I narrated was what? What kind of trucks was I talking about in the video today? I haven't looked to see if any of you have actually done the assignment. I know quite a few of you clipped off a number of the past assignments after I gave you some helpful reminders yesterday. What are we talking about today, anybody?
Wait, today is the ground transportation?
Today is ground transportation, and then right after ground transportation, I mentioned something specifically.
Was it LCL?
It was the one right before that.
Ground loading or something like that?
This one that we're talking about today is full truckload shipments. Full truckload shipments. Okay. And just like that name sounds, oh, wake up the lights here. I'm not flapping my arms like a bird. I'm trying to wake up the lights in this bay here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, just like the name sounds, I mean, it's a full truck that is moving freight. Now you think to yourself, well, isn't every truck on the road, if they were good logistics people, moving full trucks? And yes, you're correct. If you have that maybe kind of cross your mind there, yeah, you obviously want to have full trucks because just like airplanes, I mean, they have an asset in a truck, they have assets in a trailer, and you want to be able to maximize your investment if you're a trucking company. But there are certain companies that deal specifically with loads that they carry that completely fill the entire truck. And that is our truckload carriers. Truckload carriers. And as the name implies, yeah, these people deal with full truckloads of stuff. Now you think to yourself, well, why is he telling us this? I mean, what's the big deal? Well, the deal is that these types of full truckload shipments are very different from their other people that are also out on the road taking up lots of space. And Ms. Scott mentioned those, something called an LTL carrier, or a less than a full load carrier. Okay, we'll talk about that tomorrow, but today we're going to be dwelling on full truckload shipments. Okay, full truckload shipments are amazing if you're big. Okay, if you're a big company and you want to move a whole bunch of stuff, guess what? You are going to be utilizing a full truckload carrier. Now, full truckload carriers, they cost different things as far as money goes. But I mean, if you were a company and you wanted to have a truck driver pull up to your place of business and you wanted to put stuff on a truck and you wanted to have him move that stuff to a certain other destination of your choosing, you could have the services of that truck driver, maybe his company, and have his trailer actually come to your door, pick up stuff, and send it off. Okay. And it would deliver to that end destination. Okay. Seems pretty straightforward. I mean, it's definitely something that would cost you a little bit of money. We're talking probably if you wanted to get a full truck, you would get charged somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1,700 for the services of that truck driver. And again, it's kind of dependent on how far you want to send that truck driver. But generally, we're at least starting at that $1,700 mark. Okay. And then after that, I mean, if it's a really long distance, I mean, obviously it's going to cost you more. If it's a shorter distance, it might cost you less. If it's right in town, it would definitely cost you less. But I mean, generally speaking, the average price of a truck that is not going terribly far is around $1,700. And what that $1,700 gets you is a truck driver. It gets you a rig, and it gets you a trailer. Okay, pretty good deal. That guy pulls up to your he pulls up to your door, you put stuff on his truck, you give him some paperwork, and he hits the open road. Okay, good deal. If yeah, I mean, if he's going far, maybe he's going to go to Utah. Okay. Sometimes you got to send stuff to Utah. And if you're in Kentucky, it's probably going to cost you a whole heck of a lot more than $1,700. Okay. It might cost you about $4,000. But just the same, it's the same type of service that you're going to be getting from that full truckload carrier. The truck driver comes to your door, he picks up the freight, and he goes directly to that endpoint destination. Okay, you've bought the full trailer. You can jam pack it as much as you want. You bought the trailer. Okay, you bought the load that truck driver has underneath him, and you can pack the trailer as full or as little as you want, as long as you don't exceed a certain amount of weight, which is generally about 50,000 pounds. That's generally what you can jam in there. 50,000 pounds is a whole lot. Okay, so pretty straightforward, the whole truckload industry. It's something that moves a ton of stuff, as I've said, and you can think of companies that move tons of freight. Any company in the United States that you can think of, unless they're dealing with real super tiny things, are going to be using trucks a great deal. And if they are companies that produce very large items, they're going to use a lot of truckload carriers to get their stuff around. Okay. A couple things that I should mention to you. The video that I made, it mentioned various restrictions that the truck driver has on him, or her for that matter. I mean, truck drivers come in all shapes and sizes, races, ethnicities. I mean, there are all sorts of people that are truck drivers. Okay. It is a universal field. Anybody can enter it, and you will be successful at it as long as you have that ability to drive a truck and have a license from a state government agency, and you've got some insurance, and you're good to go. You can be a truck driver. Okay. Truck drivers are truly a very it is a profession, because it is not an easy life that these people live as truck drivers. I kind of mention in there that a lot of times these truckload carriers, and I think I showed you a couple of pictures of these people, are and the types of trucks that they are driving. I mean, a lot of times these truckload carriers have sleeping beds or berths at the back end of their rig where they are actually sleeping. I mean, imagine if you had to go to Utah from Hebron, Kentucky, the negotiated price for how much you're going to be paid is taking into account how much you are going to be making that truck driver work. Okay. Truck drivers drive very long distances, and it is definitely not something for everybody. Not everybody can hop into a truck and drive for 10 straight hours. I mean, how many people have ever been in a car for an extended period of time? Maybe you're going to the beach somewhere. How many people have ever been? Who thinks they've been in a car for a really long time? Who could share that with us?
Just this summer, I went to my dad's, who lives in Orlando, Florida,
Okay.
and since his plane's currently broken, he picked me up, but we had to drive 15 hours to Florida.
15 hours. Whee. Yes. Okay, Miss Scott, how about you? I saw a hand raised there.
His tops mine, but
Oh.
we've driven like 10 hours to New York.
I'll tell you what, I mean, 10 hours, I mean, did it seem like you were a caged animal being in that vehicle for 10 hours straight? Maybe you got a chance to get gas, maybe stretch your legs at a rest stop, but I mean, did it feel like a long time just the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you.
So we do it every year, so it's like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not necessarily something that everybody is looking forward to in the family. I mean, it definitely tests the family or the group of individuals that are in the car. I mean, it's a long period of time, but imagine that occurring day in, day out. Okay, and right there, you have a glimpse into the life of a truckload carrier. Okay, a truckload carrier truck driver. And it is not an easy life because obviously, I think I mentioned this when I was talking about pilots and people involved with flying planes have restrictions placed on them on how long they can operate. Trucking is another one of these fields where the federal government actually limits the amount of time that an individual can be driving one of these very large trucks. Okay, there are a couple different distinctions that can be made, but overall the general rule is that you can drive no more than 10 hours in a 14-hour period and no more than 16 hours in a 24-hour period. Okay, and there have to be various breaks that are in there. Oops, let's see. Who is raising their hands? Is that Casey? Yes, sir. Okay, Casey.
My family went on a trip for like 12 hours. Once to New York, once to Louisiana.
I tell you what, those types of drives are definitely memorable. I mean, you will constantly think back to those long periods of time when you decide to hop into a car. And these truck drivers, because they have these bunk beds, or not bunk beds, these sleeping areas right behind where they're driving, I mean, it's not uncommon for them to drive a certain period of time and then to all of a sudden take a break and log that. I mean, almost all of the trucks anymore are using electronic logging systems where they have satellite GPSs attached to their truck and they are actually logging their hours. So, heavens forbid if they get pulled over by a policeman, and there are actually special police here in the state of Kentucky that do nothing but deal with trucks. If you ever cruise down an interstate going to Louisville or Lexington or anywhere in the state, you see sometimes they look like regular police cars. However, they say something on them about motor carrier enforcement. And that's those are the guys that are overseeing these places called way stations that you sometimes see at the edge of the interstates. And they're also, whenever you see a truck driver pulled over, almost always it's one of those motor carrier enforcement people. Okay. Trucks are, for the most part, bound by the same types of speed limits. Sometimes they get lower speed limits, but they've got to move freight, and they're bound by certain driving types of restrictions. So that's something to at least keep in mind, because, like I said in the video, sometimes these drivers are on the road for many, many days in a row. I mean, they are away from family, friends, etc., as they are going out to far-flung places like Utah, Arizona, from northern Kentucky, and then they come back, or maybe they don't even really have a home base, and they're just constantly moving around the United States, which is also not unheard of for individuals in this profession. Okay, so I mean, you're moving around a great deal as a truckload driver. Okay, so Let's see, just a couple other things that I will mention to you in terms of that, and that is and also I kind of mentioned this. I mean, there is a good chance that if you are working, I mean, there's a good chance, I mean, whether you are dealing with air freight companies or whether you are dealing with distribution centers or wherever, a lot of times that you work in the field of logistics, you might come in contact with truck drivers. And I mean, these guys, sometimes they look pretty darn tired. Sometimes they're not as well showered, perhaps, as all of us because maybe they've been on the roads. I mean, you go into these truck stops and you're walking in, you're buying a Slurpee or a soda or something, and you notice over here at this truck stop, it's got showers for these guys. I mean, a lot of times these guys will use this as opposed to, I mean, they start to rationalize it to themselves. I've got this sleeping area right behind me, and do I need to spend money out of my own pocket when maybe my company is providing me a sleeping area? Do I spend the money on sleeping at a motel, or do I just sleep in this bedding area? Okay, so I mean, yeah, sometimes showering is sometimes optional for some of these individuals, and you get all types. I don't want to. I would never disparage a truck driver because they work very hard, and if we did not have truck drivers moving stuff, we would not have the good stuff that they bring. Everything that we almost all have, whether it be food, clothing, items that we pick up at Walmart, they got there via a truck. And a truck driver was responsible for doing it. And when truck drivers are not moving stuff for us, when there's bad weather or there might, they constantly talk about there being a shortage of truck drivers in the future. I mean, a lot of the ages of truck drivers are for these truckload carriers are getting up there. It's a difficult lifestyle. Not lots of people sometimes want to do it, but that causes problems for people like us that like to have stuff at our disposal to buy. Okay. So I talked a little bit about some of the different types of trucks that you might see on the road. The most common one that you see is something that I referred to as a dry van. Okay, that's your typical boring type of truck. It just, let me pull up a quick pic here just to show you dry van truck. Okay, when you get something like that, you get the whole variety of stuff that looks like these things. Okay, that's a dry van. Okay, and I talk about what's inside of them. I mean, oftentimes the outside of them might be metal, they might be fiberglass. Generally, on top of all of these trailers, they are not actually they're not actually a solid material, believe it or not. They are oftentimes fiberglass. So it allows people like you and I who might walk into a truck to look at freight that might be on a truck to actually have a skylight. So, I mean, picture every single one of these newer types of trucks having that type of skylight, a kind of a frosted fiberglass that lets in a ton of light. Okay, it also lets in a ton of heat, but it's nice to be able to see inside these trucks. The inside of a truck, I mean, let's see if I can drive in. Let's say inside. If you look inside some of these things, let's take a look at this picture right over here. If I click on that one, I mean, that's the inside of a truck. It's got generally a hardwood type of floor. It's got some steel reinforcements because it's on the ground, that where a lot of times this lower area where these pallets that get loaded on board are oftentimes scuffing up against the wall. Every once in a while, if you drive by a truck, sometimes you see something has poked out the side Well, unfortunately, somebody made a boo-boo when they were loading and punctured the wall, or a pallet got shot through the side of the truck. It's not a good situation to have, and if you have somebody that works for you that does that, you've got a big problem on your hand because the truck driver wants money. Of course, they want money. We all want money. But this is the inside of a truck, okay? You see that there's all sorts of reinforcements. This is a nice, pretty one. It's got all sorts of white sides. I mean, this one has a metal roof on it. But this is the inside of a truck, not too glamorous, but that's how stuff gets to us, okay? Stuff might be able to be loaded onto using some sort of a forklift, and pallets are set and then stacked back towards the tail. Sometimes you've got things that are stacked on top of each other. Generally on a truck like this, a dry van, you can put 26 pallets onto the floor of the truck from the nose of it up at the very front all the way to the back. It's 26 pallets of stuff. Sometimes customers of truck drivers will load things double stacked, and then you can fit 52 pallets on there. As long as you're not going over that 50,000 pound threshold, that's not uncommon either. As we look at things here in the future, a lot of times you will see things where packages are actually stacked directly onto the ground. And why do they do that? All to maximize the space. When you have pallets on board, there's lots of space that is being wasted sometimes. And if you want to really pack a truck full, you will stack boxes on the floor of these dry vans from nose to tail. I mean, I once had somebody load close to 21,000 boxes onto one of these trailers. These were very small boxes, but 21,000 boxes onto one of those things. And then it requires someone on the other end to unload those 21,000 boxes, okay? So just to give you a little bit of an idea about that, that is referred to as a dry van. Okay, real exciting stuff. Okay, another thing that let's see, tanker trailers. Another thing that you oftentimes see out on the road being pulled by truckload carriers are what's known as tankers. Okay. Now, am I going to ship boxes inside of a tanker truck? No, I'm not going to. Nobody on the call would have said so. Okay. But you're shipping things that are liquid. Throw out some things that you think might be liquid that would go into one of these tanker trucks. Throw out something. I mean, all of us see them.
Gasoline.
Gasoline, I'll tell you what, there are.
Bottled water.
What was that?
Bottled water, or does that count?
Yeah, no, I mean, there are, I mean, there's, believe it or not, all sorts of different types of water. I mean, believe it or not, when you see highway construction, you oftentimes see these things parked at the side right next to the construction places. And you're thinking, why in the heck is a big tanker truck parked next to it? And believe it or not, they have water in them so they can spray over the work area, so there's not all sorts of dust that obscures you, the four-wheel driver, as they sometimes refer to us people that are in cars. Okay, there are 18 wheels on these trucks, including the trailers, 18 wheelers, and then there's us, the four wheelers, the car and truck people. So sometimes they don't really like us because we do all sorts of things like cutting them off and all that. Okay, so we got water, you've got fuel, all sorts of different types of fuel. I mean, more types of fuel than I can think of.
Is there propane?
What was that?
Propane?
Propane, absolutely. Gases all the time get moved via this. Yeah, I mean, you don't even think about sometimes there's lots of gas types of things. And how about anything else?
Oil.
What was that? Oil?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's there's all sorts of different grades of gasoline. There's grades for stuff for people that drive tractors, there's diesel fuel, there's fuel for airplanes. There's all sorts of crazy different types of fuel and things that are petroleum based. Another thing that you will see a lot of times is something, it's very common once you start to look at some of this stuff. You'll notice that some of these are labeled on the sides of them food grade. Okay, food grade. And then there's like warnings, do not mix or something along those lines. And you've got all sorts of things like milk being transported, things like water. Some of it they'll mention not for potable water, not for drinkable water. That's generally what they wet down the dust at the construction sites. But these types of trucks are moving around all sorts of things. And it's not uncommon that, also one thing that we kind of left out, chemicals. Okay. Nobody likes to think about chemicals as being an important part of our lives. But I hate to say it, nobody likes to think chemicals. You hear the word chemicals and it's, ooh, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. But unfortunately, all it takes is looking sometimes at the ingredients on various types of beverages. There's all sorts of liquid chemicals that are going into. Some of them are better for you than others. There's just all sorts of things. You have to have a lot of chemicals to make something that is plastic. You have to have lots of chemicals to make things that are really here to make our lives easier. All these, every once in a while, you see a commercial for a chemical company called DuPont. It says that our chemicals make your life better. Okay, that was, they get trashed just as much as truck drivers, the chemical companies, but they do a lot of stuff for us that that is good. If you want to paint something, you better have lots of chemicals to make paint. If you want to, and everybody thinks, oh, well, paints aren't supposed to be toxic or anything. No, these things aren't even toxic chemicals. There's natural things that are made that turn into chemicals all of the time, and you got to be able to move them. Okay, and that's using these tanker type ones. The very last type of one that I will show you will be a bulk tanker. Okay, and it's a type of trailer that looks like this. Okay, or maybe even this one right here. I don't know if you guys have seen stuff that looks like this on the road or maybe this on the road, but these are all bulk tankers, and a lot of times it is moving things that are often powdered types of things that don't make sense to actually be in a dry van. And the nice thing about these things are that there are all sorts of motors on these things, and you can very quickly load up one of these things and you can very quickly unload one of these things. In the video that I gave you today, I mentioned my personal dealings with one of these things. Mr. Skeen, when he was going to college, he would go back home to Nebraska and I would work at a bakery. Okay, if you want to talk about a job that is hot, go work at a bakery. But every once in a while, I was given the opportunity to go and meet the truck driver at the bakery who brought in tons and tons of flour. Okay, when we talk about powdered type substance, there's all sorts of things. Some of them are edible, some of them are not edible. But again, it's just like the whole chemical things being moved via these tankers. There's lots of dry things that need to be moved from place to place. And again, this is how they do them. These are less common out on the road, but you see these things a lot. Additionally, one last little segment that I'll throw out there is the, oh, that's not that, flatbed P-R-U-C-K. Boom. Okay, the exciting flatbed truck trailer. Okay, that's these big things over here. Here's a pretty red truck with a pretty red trailer. I mean, gosh, who wouldn't want to drive one of those things? Okay, and if you count up the wheels on each one of these axles that they refer to them, okay, there's 2 wheels in each one of these little sections. So you got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 wheels back here, and then 2 more, thus your 18-wheeler truck. Okay, but this is a flatbed trailer. You can picture there's all sorts of ways that you can put stuff on here, but generally, if you're utilizing a flatbed trailer, you are loading things from the side. You have to have people on truck lifts. They go out to the side of the truck, plop things up on the top, fasten them down. If it's something they don't want to get wet, they'll cover it up, and then it hits the open road. So all sorts of different. I mean, here's lumber that's covered up with a tarp. Here are, I mean, gosh, I mean, there's just countless things that are getting dragged around by trucks. Lumber is a big thing. I mean, but take a look at this. I mean, sometimes you just go down the road and you look at some of these trucks and you're like, man, what in the Sam heck is that? I mean, big metal tubes. I mean, you get all sorts of crazy things that go down the road. And I mean, yeah, if you want to have drainage in your community and you want the water to go away as opposed to making your sewers flood, guess what? You got to have lots of big pipes. They only get there on the backs of trucks. Okay, so these are all different types of trucks that are in the truckload carrier business. Okay, so I mean, a couple things to just be thinking about. Again, these are things that are being picked up, and then they are picked up at that destination. They then go directly to an end customer, the truckload carrier. Okay, so I mean, just we'll start to wrap it up here, but I mean, definitely a large variety of the way things move, and behind all of this movement is logistics. Think about this. I mean, if you were a trucking company, you have to, just like the airlines and the air freight companies, you've got to keep track of truck driver hours and how many hours of service they have at their disposal. You have to know where all of these trucks are. If all of a sudden you get a customer saying, trucking company, I want you to take a load from here to here. You need to very quickly be able to figure out who's the closest driver I have available that I can get to that spot, and can that person have enough hours to be able to do that? Can I get it there in the guaranteed times? I mean, sometimes truck drivers, I mean, a lot of times you just see them sitting alone in a truck, but sometimes they actually have another person that is there with them. So you not only have one truck driver that unfortunately is not showering a great deal, but you now have 2 truck drivers that are showering not a great deal. And you oftentimes have what's known as team truck drivers. And when you employ a team of truck drivers, you are expecting your freight to be moving nonstop. Nonstop. It never, ever stops. And it only stops to get fuel. Okay. Nobody's sleeping. Nobody's doing anything other than driving that truck. Or if they have to stop, they fill up the tank quick and then they go again. When you employ a team of truck drivers, the expectation is you are getting stuff there as fast as possible, because you have paid a premium to employ not only one truck driver, but you get to pay now for 2. Okay, one is sleeping, one is driving. Okay, there is never any sort of issue with service time because there's always somebody who has hours. Okay. But most of the truck drivers that you see, they are working by themselves and they're adhering to the hours and all that sorts of good stuff. Okay. one last thing that I will mention, then we will be finished. Okay, you see these trucks going down the road, oftentimes these dry vans. One of the things that obviously you'd want to be thinking about if you were a shipper and you were sending things across the country, you're oftentimes going to lock the trailer. But if you lock it on one side, how is someone on the other side going to unlock it? If it's the same company that is receiving it on the other side, you don't have to worry about that. But if you're sending it to a customer who doesn't have a key to it, essentially what's going to happen, you do not put a lock on this truck. That doesn't sound very safe. Well, guess what? As soon as you give this freight to the truck driver, it's their responsibility. Okay, they then take ownership of what is inside that trailer. Now you think, Mr. Skeen, how are you going? I mean, because there's all sorts of expensive stuff that gets packed into trucks that people would love to steal, and sometimes they do. But it's definitely something that occurs. So what happens, since the company that is shipping it doesn't want to put a lock on it, what happens is the truck driver, he's responsible for locking things up. Okay, so that's one thing that is done there. But you as the shipper don't necessarily want the truck driver to be able to open that. I mean, maybe the truck driver might steal from you as well. Well, guess what? What happens in order to be able to ensure that? You as a shipper take what's known as a seal. A seal. And I'll show you a picture of one of these things and then we'll stop. Okay, let's see. Trailer seals. Okay, what these things are, and you see these things, I challenge anybody to take a look at one of these dry vans going up and down the road, and I want you to look at the very back of the truck, okay? And you will see these little flimsy plastic things, okay? They're colorful oftentimes. If you see, they have serial numbers on them. But basically what that is ensuring for the shipper is that the seal is not broken. In order to open up a truck, you have to actually, in order to see one of these things, let's see if I can get a close up of one. Maybe if I put seal on trailer. Oops. Okay, you will see these types of things. Oh, here's a nice picture. Okay, let's click on that one. Okay. Basically, in order for a truck driver to open up the trailer, he has to open the doors of the truck. Okay. And in order to do that, he has to flip a little handle back here, but he cannot flip the handle without breaking this seal. Now, this looks like a pretty sturdy seal, okay, as opposed to this thing up here, but the gist of it is the same, okay? You've got a plastic one, you've got a metal one. Plastic one, metal one. You've got like an aluminum strip. It doesn't matter. They all have a serial number, and if a truck arrives to you on the other end and this seal is broken, guess what? You've got a problem, because now you know that someone could have broken into your trailer, okay? Which I hate to say is not uncommon. So, so the truck driver, he's taking responsibility, the seal is broken, and then all of a sudden, the integrity of your load is something that is in question. Okay, so just a fact of life. I mean, if you're shipping all the way across the United States, it gets there on time, everything looks good, but wait a second, you go to unlock the trailer and there's no seal, or there's a different seal. Okay, that should set off alarms to you as the receiving customer of this truck, because the serial number that is put on the paperwork for the truck that they then hand over to you, the receiver of this shipment, it doesn't match, you've got to then verify that everything is still on board that truck. And if it's not, guess whose problem it is? It's the truck driver's problem. Okay, so the truck drivers, a lot of times they'll throw on locks, they'll throw on all sorts of things, but these seals are very important to make sure that the integrity of the truck is maintained. Nobody steals whatever the heck you're trying to ship. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, and I will tell you that tomorrow we're going to be talking about carriers that don't like to pull around this much freight. They like to deal with much smaller loads, and there are a lot of customers out there that want to ship smaller quantities of freight. A lot of them don't have big quantities of freight, 26 pallets, 52 pallets, 21,000 boxes to put onto a truck. But guess what? There's a niche for that. There's a whole line of companies that want to do nothing but move smaller loads throughout the United States, and they too are very important. So I'm going to leave things there, and I will allow you guys to. Yes.
I have a question
Yes.
about like
You kind of cut out there at the end there if you posed a question.
I said transportation of Ignite, like buses and all that.
Yep.
So will I be like for Kent County people? Will we be riding for like Scott in our old buses?
No. Okay. That was one of the last things I was going to tell you. Actually, we're just a couple seconds away. I am going to be sending all of you an email, okay, that will have information about your transportation to getting here to Ignite, okay, on the 22nd, okay? It is exactly 6 days from now. Okay, I'm going to be sending you information. I'm going to send it to you probably via email. I'm just going to send it to you email. Okay, I'm going to send it to your Boone County email addresses. Okay, and I want everybody to make sure that they take a look at that if they envision themselves needing that type of transportation. I think that is the preferred way that we would have you coming to school, because there are all sorts of different ways that we have to ensure individuals are coming into the building. I mean, we've already had it drilled into our head by the Board of Education. This is unusual that we're actually being allowed to do this. Most high schools are not allowed to have people coming into them. We have been given a little bit of a pardon on that. And basically, I think they do want you using the school transportation to get here. So I'm going to be sending you an email that is going to talk about that, and be on the lookout for that. Okay, so you will see that here very shortly, and that will hopefully answer your questions. But if it does not, you can pose those questions to me. You can either respond back in the email, or we can talk about it tomorrow if anyone has any questions. Okay, so again, every single one of you are going to be coming on the 22nd. The 22nd. That is not going to be a day where you decide to skip class or making sure the alarm does not work or whatever. You are going to want to come. I want to see you face to face. It will be good to see you face to face, and I look forward to that. So please do not miss that. Okay, it's just another school day. It's the 22nd, a Tuesday, and I'm gonna see you guys all here. So with that being said, I just gained another person. Okay, very good. All happily here. So everybody, expect an email coming from me with transportation info. Like I said, respond back if you got questions, or we can talk about it as a group tomorrow. Okay, I'll say no more. I've taken a lot of your time. And with that being said, I will wish you the best. Okay, so have a good one. Please, anyone stay on if they have any questions of me. And I'd be happy to answer any that you might have. Have a good.
I thought class
Yes.
started until 9 today.
What's that?
I thought class didn't start till 9 today. I thought it was every
I
Wednesday.
know, Logan. I know. I realize that, and you will find when you come here. Well, believe it or not, I did tape this. I saved the audio of all this, so
Okay.
I'll
Watch
I'll
it.
forward you the link. Okay. Yeah, no, you are correct. I had said that, and I was wondering to myself, I wonder if anyone's actually going to show up, and everybody did show up. So you actually remembered what I said, but I did not change the meeting time. So maybe a lot of other people thought what you thought, but I didn't actually change the meeting time. So again, we focus it all back on skiing here. Yeah, I am the screw up here. I am the root cause for you not showing up and anyone else that caught that. They showed up just saying, Ski never changed the meeting time. Maybe he's talking out of his ear or somewhere else. Okay, but Mr. Marsh, anyone else that is on here that caught that? Good catch. But yes, since there were so many people that showed up, I just 8:15. Okay, but yeah, I'm the only person in the logistics department here at Ignite. Although we did get our math teacher. For those of you that are still around, I met our math teacher, and she's going to be starting on Monday. And we've already been talking about how things are going to work. So you'll also get to meet your math teacher. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. So, yes, Logan, I will send you a link. In fact, actually, no, I can't do it right now. But I will definitely, I will send that to you very quickly since you are ready for class, and I am not ready for class at 9:15 because I've already had class. But I will send that to you. Okay. Anyone have any questions, or you guys just want to hang out here with me? Make sure I'm in a good state of mind. I appreciate that. I mean, Von Honey, he's always fun to listen to. I mean, Ian.
I haven't heard that song in so long.
Well, we don't have very many sounds. We technically don't have an intercom system here.
Okay, I feel like that's when I come on and they would like say something.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I'm going to do a couple things. If any. They must be practicing because they're not saying anything. Anyway.
I do have one question though.
Yes. Yes.
So, by the 22nd, do you think they'll have it figured out what days will actually come to school?
Yes. Ourselves being on a Monday through Friday schedule is different from everyone else here at Ignite. So I am going to probably be told today, just so plans can be made. But everyone will be coming at, everybody will be coming in their respective times, and I'll inform you of those times. Hopefully I'll be able to share with that also today, but right now I do not have those times. Okay.
Gotcha.
Or days, I should say, not times. Okay. Okay. So yes, thank you for that question. Anybody else got anything? Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of people that are on here that did have maybe an oddball assignment that was not quite completed. And actually, quite a few of them were completed yesterday after a helpful reminder from none other than Mr. Skeen. So I appreciate that. Again, these are freebie points as long as you do the watching of the video. I have started to be kind of sadistic, and I put in like the middle or in several parts, I put like spots where the video will stop. So people like, I don't know, Von Honey won't just hit play and walk away. So I'm getting tricky. I'm learning the tricks here. Not that I'm sure any of you would do that. I'm sure none of you would do that. Ian wouldn't do that. Logan wouldn't do that. Laner, no. Hamrick, absolutely not. But if you did. Mr. Skeeny's getting tricky and putting stops in the middle of it. So, yeah, you might actually have to listen to some of this crazy stuff. Okay. Let's see. You can hang out with me. You can play music for me. You can do whatever you want. But I have got to do a couple things on a couple other sessions of my many open tabs here. Let's see. Brandon just sent me an email. So I'll respond to that. But again, if you guys, goodbye, Ian. So anyway, have a good day. I'm going to start doing other things. And like I said, if you want to talk to me, I'm here, but you got to talk. Or if you want me to talk to, goodbye, Logan. Goodbye. Goodbye. Nobody's even talking to me. Hamrick, goodbye. Von Honey, if you're out there in internet world, goodbye. Destin, goodbye. Goodbye, one and all.
Yeah, Mr. Skeen.
Oh, Von Honey, I got something from you. Very good. You have a good. Okay, goodbye.
You too.
Hamrick, Lainert, you have a good day as well. Maybe I'll hear your voice, maybe I won't. But anyway, goodbye. Goodbye.